This is lesson 1.7 for course 2. Take out your notebooks. The title of this lesson is adding integers. So on the top of your page, write 1.7, adding integers. Now, this looks like a lot of notes, but you're going to want to make sure you have it because it's super important. So, rules for adding integers. You might want to push pause if you need a little more time to copy this down. So, a positive plus a positive is always a positive. So here's an example. 5 plus 10 equals 15. Super easy. Everybody kind of knows that one. That's not a problem. Negative plus negative equals a negative. So if I have negative 14 plus negative 3, my answer, I just add them together and I keep my negative sign and it becomes negative 17. Here's where it gets a little tricky. Now, if I have a negative and a positive, you don't get any specific answer. What you do is you just look at the numbers. Don't worry about the signs. You just look at the numbers. So I'm going to look at 15 and 2, and you subtract them. Subtract the numbers. So 15 minus 2 is 13. And then you keep the sign of the larger number. And in this case, it's 15. So I keep that negative sign and I put it on to my answer. Okay, so you can also use a number line if that helps you. So here is a number line to find this sum. 5 plus negative 4. So what you do is you start at 0, you go up 5 to here, and then I'm going to do plus negative 4. So I'm going to go back 4. So I'm going to go back 4 spots, and I end here, and then I know my answer is 1. This one is, you always start at 0. I'm going to go back 5 to negative 5, because that's my first number right there. And then I'm going to add negative 2. So I'm going to add 2 more negative numbers, and my answer becomes negative 7. So, try these 3 problems on a number line. Push pause if you need to. All right, so here's my first number line. Make sure you always have 0. Okay, I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to go back 8. So to negative 8 is right there. This is negative 8. And then I'm going to add 1. So add 1 to get to negative 7 as my answer. Right there. Here is the next one. Always start at 0. Now I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to go negative 1. Here's negative 1. And then I'm going to go 7 more negative. So 7 more negative gets me to negative 8. Remember, a negative plus a negative is always going to be a negative. Now here's the last one. Negative 6 plus 6. So if I draw a number line, I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to go from 0 to negative 6, and then I'm going to add 6, so I go back to 0, so my answer is 0. All right, adding integers. So now use the rules and try these 3 problems, and then we will go over them. Push pause if you need to. All right, number 2A is a negative 97 plus a negative 65. So these are both negative, so my answer is going to be negative, and I just add the 2 numbers together to get negative 162. Now, this is a positive and this is a negative. So I have a positive plus a negative. So what I do is I subtract my 2 numbers. So I do 39 minus 21, which equals 18. And then I keep the sign of the larger number. So I have 21 and 39. Well, 39 is the larger number, and it's negative. So that means my answer is negative. So it's negative 18. Same thing here. I have 22 plus negative 22. Hopefully you can see that these are the same number, but one is positive and one is negative, so my answer is 0. All right, so the next main thing you need to put in your notes is subtracting integers. So subtracting integers, you have one main rule. It says change the problem to add the opposite, then follow the rules for addition. So if I have negative 3 minus 8, I'm going to change this to a positive, a plus, and then make this negative. So all I did was add a negative, and then I have a negative plus a negative, which makes a negative. So let's try these on the number line. Fine. 4 minus 6. So I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to go up 4 to here. And then I am going to subtract 6. Subtract 6, that gets me to negative 2 is my answer. This one, I have negative 2, so I'm going to go from 0, I'm going to go to negative 2. And I'm going to minus a negative 5. Well, when you minus a negative 5, the two negatives make a positive. So that really means plus 5. So then I'm going to go up 5. And my answer is 3. So try number 3 and 4 in your notes. And then push pause if you need to. All right, negative 6 minus 1. So the way I like to do it is to write negative 6 plus negative 1. I changed it to a positive and then made it negative. So now I can see it's a negative plus a negative. So my answer is negative 7. You just add the two numbers together and keep the sign. This one, I have 14 minus negative 7. So if I change that to a plus, I also have to change this, and it becomes 14 plus 7, which is 21. All right, so here's some more examples. Do these problems in your notebook, and then pause the video, and then come back and we'll go over. All right, negative 3 plus 1. So I have a negative and a positive. So negative plus positive, those are two opposites, so that means I subtract, and I get 2, and I keep the sign of the larger number, which is negative 2, because my 3 is the larger number. All right, same thing here. I have a positive plus a negative, so I'm going to subtract those two numbers, and I get 18, and then I keep the sign of the larger number, which is 24. So it's a positive 18. Now here I have a negative plus a negative, and I know my answer is going to be negative, and then I just add the two together. So I add them together, 12 plus 19, and I get 31, and it's negative because a negative plus a negative is a negative. Here I have a positive minus a negative 3, which means positive plus a positive, because I'm going to change my sign to a positive, and then this goes away. So then my answer is positive 8. This is a negative, and then I'm going to do plus negative 2, so that's plus a negative. A negative plus a negative is a negative, and then I just add the two numbers, and it's negative 9. Lastly, I have a negative, and then I'm going to add the opposite. So I'm going to add and then put a negative 5 there, plus a negative. So then I have a 1 and a 5, that makes a 6, and then I keep the sign, so it's negative 6. All right, that's it for your notes for lesson 1.7.